This week marks the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Actor Ed Begley Jr. joins us now to talk about that and how this time of COVID-19 is impacting his environmental activism, for which he's so well known. He's also a seven-time Emmy-nominated actor and currently one of the stars of the ABC series Bless This Mess. Good seeing you again, Ed. Thanks for joining us.
Larry, it's always good to see you.
How are you and the family doing in this COVID crisis?
We're doing very well here. I have a nice vegetable garden, and I'm doing just fine. There's a lot of people out there going through a lot of hardship, so my heart and soul goes out to them. And I know we're all trying to do what we can for a lot of the first responders and the people, the medical personnel, and everybody that are heroes in the front trenches. So trying to be of service any way I can to them, and of course, always consider the environment as I always do in all my other actions.
What's been the effect, particularly on the environment, of COVID-19?
There's one good effect that's coming from this, if you will, and that is when we look up and see these blue skies in cities like LA and other cities in America, Houston, Bakersfield, that normally have a lot of smog. We go, look what the world can be like without so much fossil fuel and smog and pollution. It's something to aspire to. We can't be hunkered down like this. We don't want to be isolated like this. That's not worth the price of admission to get a cleaner environment and cleaner air, but we can have both. We can have a clean environment and good green jobs and green transportation.
You've said, Ed, that you were fiscally conservative in your early days of trying to live in an environmentally sensitive and sustainable fashion. What changed?
I got all my environmental ethic from my father. My father, Ed Begley Sr., was not only a wonderful actor, but a wonderful man. He was a conservative that liked to conserve. He was a son of Irish immigrants. He had lived through the Great Depression, so he simply turned off the lights, turned off the water, saved string, saved tinfoil. So by the time that Earth Day rolled around in 1970, and he died within a few days of the first Earth Day, by the way, I was very motivated to do something because they always said to me, Eddie, I know what you're against. I'm against the smog too, but what are you for? What are you doing about it? So I started recycling, I started composting, turned off the lights even more. And I even bought a 1970 electric car, believe it or not. And I did everything I could to do my part to clean up the smog.
Would you say that your dad was kind of a pioneer in this?
He was. He was of that age of people who lived through the Great Depression and simply conserved. That's the way they lived. And so I wanted to do, what he had done with his life. And I didn't have a lot of money after he passed in 1970. So I couldn't buy any solar panels or fancy stuff, but I did everything I could afford. I started riding my bike, taking public transportation. I became a vegetarian, biodegradable soaps and detergents, composting, all that kind of stuff that was cheap and easy I did. And those opportunities abound today for people on limited income. It's not all about highfalutin solar panels and stuff. There's lots of simple things that people can do to protect the environment and to save money.
What's the most environmental change you've seen in, say, the 50 years?
Apropos of what we talked about that first Earth Day when I got involved in 1970, from 1970 to date, Larry, we have 4 times the cars in LA, millions more people, but we have a fraction of the smog. You've been in LA long enough to see how much better it's gotten. Even with all those people, all those additional vehicles, there's less smog. We did that together. Everybody did what they needed to do to clean up the air. And there's plenty of jobs cleaning up that air with catalytic converters made to put on cars, cleaner, power plants, spray paint booths, all those stuff, big and small that we did, cleaned up the air in LA. Now we got to clean up the whole world.
What has disappointed you most in terms of the environmental movement in the past 50 years?
What disappoints me the most is people that think that you have to lose, fiscally to do the right thing for the environment. That's not the case. There's certainly plenty of jobs in coal mines and in oil derricks and refineries, but aren't there also jobs making wind turbines and solar panels and electric cars and energy-saving thermostats and LED light bulbs, insulation, all that stuff? Those are all jobs too. Green jobs, jobs of dignity. And now with the price of solar and wind plummeting, we can do those green technologies in our power production, and we don't have to have pollution just to have a kilowatt hour.
In the area of legislation, are you happy or have we a long way to go?
We have a long way to go, but we've achieved much success. The reason the air is cleaner in LA is not just from the actions of people like me who bought electric cars and did what they could. It was a Clean Air Act signed by an environmental radical by the name of Richard Nixon. He signed the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act, and that's part of why we have cleaner air. It's good legislation like that that has helped us do what we needed to do to clean up the air in LA and many other cities. So also, when you really look at the cost of things, the cost of a home, most people look at the cost of a home as the cost of, labor and materials. That's the way you would figure the price of a home. But what's the cost of running that home over its long life? My house here, I built out of steel, so it'll last hundreds of years. Over those hundreds of years, this house will last. What is the cost of, energy? And because I have the 9 kilowatt system of solar panels on my roof, solar hot water, all the other green things that I put into this home, 12-inch thick walls, 10,000 gallon rainwater tank, gray water system, everything that I did to make it a greenhouse makes it short on green in the long run. That is to say, it needs very little green or money to operate, and that's good planning.
Nixon was an underrated president domestically, wasn't he?
He certainly was. What he did for the environment with the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act was very good. You can get into Vietnam and some of his missteps, but that certainly was something that Johnson did as well too, and Kennedy. There are many people that did the wrong thing in Vietnam, but as regards the environment, he would be considered a moderate Democrat today.
Yeah, he would. The EPA recently announced it will not expect compliance with routine monitoring and reporting of pollution, won't pursue penalties for breaking these rules. Critics accuse the Trump administration of essentially a license to pollute during the pandemic. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to go backwards on the environment with our health. Health issues are key when making environmental decisions and making fiscal decisions, because it costs a lot of money to take care of sick people with all the respiratory ailments that you get living near to pollution, a power plant or some other polluting entity, emphysema, asthma, all sorts of pulmonary issues. We need to have less pollution, not more. So it's a good time to invest in green technologies the way we've been doing. It's been good for us to get off foreign oil, to clean up the air in our cities, and ultimately to put money in our pocket.
Trump claims that the United States has some of the cleanest and sharpest air and water on Earth, and he said he wants crystal clean air and water everywhere. What do you make of that?
I think it's something that's doable, but I think if you need to do that, you need to raise the standards for energy efficiency and to have lots of subsidies for people, so people who can least afford it can do the right thing and pay for insulation and energy efficient lighting, those things where you get a lot of bang for the buck. Those things that cost very little can save people a lot. So increase energy efficiency and have federal subsidies for it, to have good environmental laws so people aren't getting as sick, because healthcare costs a lot, and do those things that really are good financial planning for the long run. And I hope we're all in it for the long run, Larry.
Some people are concerned that the coronavirus will slow down, perhaps even derail the climate change issue. Do you see that?
I hope it doesn't, because the price of not dealing with climate change is going to be very extreme. We see what's happening in South Florida now. Miami has flooding on their streets, often during the year. We have lots of other coastal areas that have flooding. The idea of millions of people being displaced in Bangladesh and places like that, and the kind of global unrest. The people that really get climate change have been talking about it for decades now are the people at the Pentagon. The military people know that it makes us unsafe, and there's tremendous global danger from not paying attention to climate change. And they've got military bases, based at sea level, naval bases, and what have you. The cost of moving those bases and adjusting for sea level rise is a big ticket item for the Pentagon. They know it. Insurance company knows about it. It's real. It's happening.
Do you see climate change playing a part in the election?
I think it will to some people. There's some people that don't care about it, who are dismissive of it. They don't get it. But we really are we're at an unusual time in our history. We're like fish in an aquarium who've learned how to nibble at the controls with no idea what the consequences are. We've nibbled at the controls of climate with what we've done, putting all the CO2 in the air and other problems with plastics in the ocean and many other extreme problems, the die-off of coral reefs, acidification in the ocean. We've got a lot of work to do, a lot of work to be undone, but we can do it. And there's good news financially if we do it right.
You've talked about corporate responsibility in all this. In the midst, are you concerned with COVID-19 that corporate responsibility in the environment may be put in the back door?
I hope it's not put in the back door, the back burner. I really think it's very possible to do the right thing. And you have to get the corporate entities involved. There are three pillars to make good environmental change. Number one is what I've been talking about for years, personal action, getting the light bulbs and changing, other things in your home and your lifestyle. Number two is good legislation like the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. Number three is corporate responsibility. All three pillars need to be of the same size and equal strength. And you need to do all three if you want to have clean air in LA or anywhere in the world. And that's what we need to do and focus on all three of those.
COVID-19 has a significant improvement in air quality. You think when this is all over, we'll go back to the same old, same old?
I hope we've gotten a taste for this wonderful clean air that we've had. It certainly smells great every day. Our skies in LA look more like Albuquerque skies than anywhere like LA. I hope we have a taste for it. And I hope we see, after we've gotten a handle on this COVID-19 predicament, I hope we see, if we continue to have clean air, how the cost of treating people with other respiratory ailments goes down and not up. I think there's a price for dirty air, and that price is not doing anything in healthcare costs. So we need to consider that when we're making our decisions environmentally. What does it cost to do nothing and ignore pollution? And the cost is extreme, I think.
What do you make of young Greta Thunberg?
Greta has really inspired me. I did everything I could before I ever heard of her or knew of her. And I've decided to do more. So I've made some changes I never thought I could do around my house. I already had what they call a LEED Platinum home. That's the greenest home that you can build. I did that, but I did a few other things that I've since discovered that can make it even greener. I've changed. I used to fly rarely. Now I fly never. And this is long before the COVID-19 thing. I haven't flown all year, nor do I expect to in the foreseeable future. So I'm trying to continue my inspirational efforts for her and her generation. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and now I know you have kids about the same age. I want to do something for them so they have a planet something like what we knew, Larry.
Are you happy with the way things are? Because you've always you do things on your own. You don't wait for society to catch up. Do you ever feel you're alone in the wilderness?
I used to feel very much alone, but now I see so many people, who can afford it, putting solar on the roof and buying an electric vehicle, or people that can't afford it, doing simple things like changing out the light bulbs and changing the thermostat or putting up weather stripping, taking public transportation, back when that's a good idea medically to take public transportation, and I hope it is soon. Riding a bike when weather and fitness permit, all those things that are inexpensive. That's what I did when I was broke. A lot of people are broke and need to do things that make good financial sense. I get inspired when I see the cleaner air in LA. I get inspired when I see the Cuyahoga River near Cleveland doesn't catch fire anymore. We've done a lot since 1970. I want to stay the course and keep doing it.
What have you got against flying?
Well, there's a certain amount of pollution from flying and jet fuel. I lead a very green life here. I ride around in my solar charged electric vehicle, and I'm not using any fossil fuels. But when you get in a plane, you have to use fossil fuels. Diesel fuel is jet fuel is basically kerosene with a mold retardant put in it. So you're burning a lot of kerosene. And so I stopped flying. I want to see how long I can do it. If I have to go on a long trip, I'll do it in my Tesla. They have charging stations across America. I'll report back to you, Larry. Let's see how well I do. But I haven't flown for quite a while now since Greta came on the scene. I'm going to try to stay with it.
But don't you feel like you're a little bit alone? I mean, everybody flies.
They do, but people are getting by now, and very few people are on planes. There's maybe, a dozen people on a plane or something. I've seen some of the pictures of it. It's possible to live without it. Some people perhaps can't live without it, but I'm a person who can live without it. And certainly if I ever have to travel to New York again or halfway across the country, it's something I could do in a Tesla. I've driven cross country in alternative fuel vehicles before and found fueling stations. So that's something I'm going to see how I do. But so far, so good. I haven't flown in nearly a year now.
Is there anything in your previous life you miss?
What do I miss in my previous life? Boy, there's been so much good fortune.
Had 2 lives.
I have had 2 lives, but I guess I certainly miss my dad. I miss people that are gone. What I miss, I miss, I miss a lot of people like Bruno Kirby, my dear friend and actor, is gone. I miss people that are no longer with us, but everything in my life is very fortunate. And so I have no regrets about anything that's befallen me. But what I regret is not doing as much as I probably could have. And I want to do more, certainly with the people who are in need now with COVID-19. I'm trying to do something every day for the people who need help. And there's much work to be done.
Was it an event that caused your environmentalism?
It was a slow effect of smog on my lungs. I was a young man growing up in LA. So after 20 years of breathing in that smog and wheezing, forget about running around a play yard, just sitting there, it hurt my lungs. So after 20 years of that, I was really committed to doing something. And also I knew about the pollution in the water because I could go down to the Santa Monica Bay and see it. I heard about the pollution in the Cuyahoga River where it caught fire. And another way, in a positive way, the inspiration of seeing those pictures that came back from the moon that Buzz Aldrin took, I think, with the Hasselblad, these beautiful photographs of the Earth in the distance. We saw it as a thing, as an entity, as one thing, and we started to behave accordingly and protect this fragile water planet that we call home. And so I've been inspired over the years, and I hope that inspiration continues. It will with people like Greta.
Well, we ought to call Earth Day Ed Begley Jr. Day. Thanks so much, Ed, as always.
Always good to see you, Larry. Thank you.